The Souls series has become massive over the past decade. Since the original Demon Souls was released all the way back in 2009, we've seen many more similar titles developed by From Software, but also games from other developers that follow the Soulsy formula, such as Nioh, Lords of the Fallen, and Code Vein. I tried to play as many of these as possible, and a decade later, I'm still ready for more. Having played the original Demon Souls on the PS3 nearly a decade ago, I was definitely hazy when it came to the finer details, such as the specifics of the level design, so it felt like a new experience for me. In terms of one-to-one remakes, the new Demon Souls, this time developed by Bluepoint Games, gave me exactly what I expected. It looks beautiful, it plays well, and it's as addictive as it was back on the PS3. Before we begin this review, if you liked this video, it would help me out a lot if you hit like and subbed for loads more RPG content. Alright, let's get started. The most significant change in the Demon Souls remake is clearly the visuals, and boy oh boy do they look amazing. This game was the reason that I decided to get a PS5 as soon as I could, and I am so glad that I did, if not only to simply just stand on some ledge looking out at the scenery. If this is what we get to experience early in the PS5's lifespan, I can't wait to see what comes next. So the visuals themselves look amazing, but there have been a few redesigns that have upset loyal fans of the original, such as the Flame Lurker boss, but I personally didn't have any issues with these new design choices. All in all, the Demon Souls remake is essentially the exact same experience. All of the maps, enemies and bosses remain the same, but there have been some small tweaks here and there, such as the carrying capacity and some enhancements to the controls. In terms of new content, there have been some minor changes, including some new equipment pieces and a new fractured mode which mirrors the map. Just don't expect anything that will blow your mind. It's not like a new location for the 6th broken Arkstone has been added. Honestly, for a full-priced game, I wouldn't blame you for wanting a little bit more. Demon Souls takes place in the kingdom of Boletaria. In the ancient past, the misuse of soul arts resulted in the kingdom being attacked by the Old One. This consumed the world in a deep fog and released soul-eating demons, which is never a good thing. Fortunately, the Old One was eventually put into a slumber, saving what remained of the world. Fast forward to the present, and the king has restored the soul arts, awakening the Old One and the demon army once more. Your role is to travel through the 5 regions of Boletaria, defeating the demons and returning the Old One back to slumber. You start the game by creating your character. Here you also need to choose a class, but this by no means locks you into a particular playstyle. It really just gives you a starting point by distributing some of your initial levels to different stats, which is useful to people new to the game. One feature that I did want, however, was the ability to examine every stat on the menu. There is a lot of stats and numbers, and I felt that you should have been able to scroll through for clearer descriptions of what they do like you could in later games. The character that you create can access each of the 5 locations through the Nexus, which acts as the game's hub. Here you can also talk to NPCs, purchase items, equipment and spells similar to the Firelink Shrine from Dark Souls. The big difference here is that interacting with the Arkstones will warp you to each of the 5 locations, as opposed to the Dark Souls style of having one large interconnected world. I'm sure you're all familiar with Soulsy style games by now. Here's a quick rundown in case you've been living under a rock. Essentially, you need to work your way through each level and defeat each boss without dying. If you do die, and you will die, you will lose all of your souls, which is the game's currency, and then you're sent back to your last checkpoint, ready to do it all over again. The catch is that if you make it back to where you died without dying again, you can reclaim your lost souls. I've always been a huge fan of this Soul style formula, and Demon Souls does it very well. It is, after all, the original Souls game. So you will be dying a lot, but the best part about dying is now the load times. Gone are the days where the player is forced to wait minutes when dying or changing levels. This is probably my favourite thing about the PS5. When your character does die, they will enter a soul form, which has a few impacts on the game. The major difference is that when you're in soul form, your maximum health will be halved. To turn back into human form, you'll either have to defeat a boss or use the Stone of Ephemeral Eyes. Now, these aren't necessarily rare, but you will be dying a lot more than you'll be finding these items, so I found it best to save them for bosses. I really wasn't a fan of this significant HP penalty when you're in soul form, as if losing your souls wasn't bad enough. You can minimize this penalty if you equip the Cling Ring, which halves the health penalty when in soul form. I found this to be an absolute necessity, which is a shame because it uses up one of the 2 accessory slots. Human and soul forms also play a role in the PvP online play. If you want to summon help from other players, you'll need to be in human form, but at the risk of being invaded by other players. However, if you wish to join other people's games, you do need to be in soul form. If you've played the Dark Souls series, there's nothing really new here. Multiplayer is a lot of fun, but I always do my first playthrough solo, then jump into other people's games. Part of what makes Demon's Souls so amazing is the level design. Each of the 5 locations are completely different in their design, and some of them are among my favourites in the entire series. Aside from looking absolutely incredible, there's a good range of enemies and a great amount of secrets, optional routes and shortcuts to take as you progress. In terms of level difficulty, I did find Demon's Souls to be up there with the toughest of them. Certain levels are absolutely brutal in how far you need to go to either reach a boss or activate a shortcut. For instance, at one part in the Shrine of Storms, I was spending a lot of time dying over and over again just so I could have another attempt at a boss. And that stupid poison level in the Valley of Defilement. Damn it probably took me over an hour of careful progression to activate a particular shortcut. Dying near the end of this section is just cruel. In these situations, more consistent checkpoints were desperately needed, but with that said, the feeling of satisfaction when you actually achieve your goal is so much greater. The whole gameplay experience is almost identical to the original, which is a good thing. There have been some slight enhancements, such as being able to roll in 8 directions rather than 4, which was a very necessary addition given the times. Something that I'm not really a fan of is that healing in Demon's Souls requires consumable grasses instead of the auto-regenerating Estus flasks in Dark Souls. Let's be real, no one wants to spend time farming for healing items. One new change is that these healing grasses weigh more, meaning that you won't be able to hold as many without being over encumbered. This was a welcomed adjustment as it helps balance the game a bit more. All of the boss fights make a return from the original game, but this time in all their 4K glory. Some of the nightmares of the past reminded me why they haunted my dreams all those years ago, with the Tower Knight and the stupid man-eaters giving me quite the challenge. Aside from that, I managed to roll through most bosses without many issues. That's either because my skills improved over the past decade, or the fact that my magic build made things a lot more easier than a melee build would have. Something else worth mentioning is the world tendency. This is something not really explained in the game, but it does have an impact on certain aspects of the game, such as the difficulty and opening up secret areas otherwise not accessible. Essentially, based on your actions in the game, your world tendency for each of the 5 locations will be altered. If your actions earns your white tendency, enemies will be easier and certain areas will be open to you. If you earn a black tendency, enemies will be harder and different areas will be opened. To be honest, I really didn't care for this system much at all. I ignored it on my first run through and my actions never actually changed this tendency at all. Part of this was because I initially didn't understand what affects these tendency changes. External research is definitely needed if you want to get the most out of it, otherwise just ignore it, you won't be missing much. Demon's Souls has everything that you would want from a one-to-one remake. Bluepoint Games has taken everything that was so great from the past and almost identically recreated the experience. The highly addictive gameplay is great and I had an absolute blast exploring these well-designed levels. Now, the original Demon's Souls looked good back then, but this remake is absolutely breathtaking and has me really excited to see what the PS5 will offer in the future. There really isn't any major standout flaws, but something that caused quite a bit of frustration was the at times inconsistent checkpoints, which is something that the series definitely improved upon as time went on. Also, for a full-priced game, I would have liked to see some significant additional content, such as another location to work through, but I know this would come down to personal preference. Still, Demon's Souls is my #1 exclusive on the PS5, which probably doesn't say too much at this point in time, but still, it was awesome. What did you think of Demon's Souls? Let me know in the comments. This was Hellfire RPGs, thanks for watching. If you like this, it would help me out a lot if you hit like and sub for more RPG content. Also, come say hi on Twitter or Facebook. See you next time.